Most investors run out of money. Here's why you won't. If you don't structure your finances correctly, you'll hit a wall just after a few properties. Most investors do. But the smartest investors, they never stop growing. So let me show you how. This is a difference between getting stuck and scaling in the right way. And the key is not to chase quick cash, but start thinking long term. A common mistake that I see is investors keeping on refinancing the cash until there's nothing left in a deal and no future growth. The smart move is knowing when to take money out and when to let the property build value. You need to focus on long-term wealth, not just short-term cash. So a great example of this is selecting the right areas. I have a lot of investors that end up going, oh no, I'm not going to invest here because the cash flow is a little bit short. But what they then do is they'll invest in an area that has very little capital growth, trying to refinance every 2 years, not thinking about the cost of refinance, a new survey, new broker fee, new set of legals in there, all to actually shrink their cash flow and draw as much money out. So they get very little capital growth because of the area, because they've maximized cash flow, all for an extra £20 a month. Whereas what we do is we invest in what we call Vine Street properties. You've got Mayfair on one end that looks great, in real life, beautiful. Then you've got Old Kent Road that looks great on paper, but your copper's getting ripped out every 3 months, your doors are getting kicked in. And then Vine Street, as we all know on the Monopoly board, is the best street to buy. It's the best investment for capital growth, value, and the rental coming in. So we invest in these properties, and what this allows us to do on 5-year fixes, not financial advice, is we maximize the capital growth cycle and then pull out a load of money. Let me give you some real examples of this. If we go back to a property that we bought in our Vine Street area, which was in LS10, 5 years ago, we ended up buying it for £90,000, and we're just going through refinancing right now at £135,000. So over a 5-year period, that has gone up £45,000, and it's been cash flowing around 180 to 250, depending on the time and the damages, etc., per calendar month. So this is a great example of where we've added a property to our portfolio, cash flowed all the way through, getting a really good return on our investment, and now we've revalued and remortgaged the property, and we've pulled out £45,000, give or take. We've made a really good return on investment, and we're pulling out over £30,000, which can go towards our savings and buy the next property. And yes, when you're doing this one by one, it's a slow, methodical thing. But when you've built up your savings and you can buy an additional one, and we typically get our investors ready to buy 1 or 2 per year and scale up from then, you've then got a never-ending growth portfolio. Next is building your portfolio in the right order. So people get this so wrong. Most investors, they buy properties randomly, without thinking about their next move. And so I did this, by the way, where I'll buy one in the northeast because I got a bit of a discount. Then I buy one that came up in Birmingham, but it actually didn't take any of the criteria. And long story short, I've ended up getting rid of all of those properties. Not that they couldn't be a good investment, but actually I just got stuck because the portfolio wasn't balanced, it wasn't well thought out. And so smart investors, what we're looking to do is we buy in a structured way so that one deal funds the next, as I kind of went through. And we work with experts to make sure the portfolio is set for scaling up. So I always say to people, whatever you're looking to achieve over the long term, have you got your first 5 boring, vanilla buy-to-let properties? And if somebody hasn't bought their first buy-to-let properties, don't talk to me about rent-to-rent, service accommodation, HMOs. Like 90% of people absolutely screw them up. They are advanced strategies that 90% of people I talk to get it wrong. And genuinely, I'm talking from personal experience here, where I've spoken to people that have not bought their boring vanilla buy-to-lets and got an understanding of the market, and then they've bought these more exciting opportunities and then selling them back off over the next 3 to 5 years because they're just not what it says on the tin. So you need to get your baseline and a balanced portfolio. If you think about your investment journey as building a skyscraper, some of you want to build a house, some of you a duplex, and some of you a 30-story high building. But it all starts in the foundations, which is 5 boring, vanilla buy-to-let properties. Next is how do we leverage without getting stuck? So some investors, they over-leverage their portfolios, and I am not giving financial advice when I say this, but I'm going to come out with it anyway. Debt is your friend. Debt is bloody good. I am in tens of millions of debt, and I fully expect to be in hundreds of millions of debt by the time I die. Hopefully I can hit $1 billion in debt. Now I know people that don't understand money go, yeah, but surely you don't have any money if you're in that much debt. You've been taught it in the wrong way. Okay, debt is very good. There's good debt and bad debt. And when we're using debt to invest in our education, our businesses, marketing, scaling up, that is a really good use of it. You buying a 50 grand car that's worth 30 grand by the time you drive it away and getting a 60 grand loan included interest to buy it, that is bad debt, or what I would call moronic debt. Okay, that is an obvious liability and stupid. That being said, yes, there are some limitations. There's some religions that don't believe in interest rates, stuff like that. I fully respect that. But if you can utilize debt, it will speed up your growth. Let me give you an example. Now, we're going to ignore stamp duty refurbishment just to keep this example very simple. If I have £200,000, I can buy a £200,000 house. Okay, let's ignore all of the fees. And let's say it's £1,000 rent. Great, I'm investing my £200,000 into a £200,000 property. It's giving me £12,000 a year from the grand a month. And let's say it's got 5% capital growth, which is pretty standard in a great area. Now, I'm making 5% on 200,000, £10,000. Well, I've made £12,000 plus my £10,000, which is £22,000, which 22,000 divided by 200,000 is an 11% a year growth rate. Wow, that's an amazing return on investment. But what if we leveraged at 75% loan to value? So now with my 200,000, I'm not going to buy one, I'm going to buy 4 properties, and on each of them I'm going to put a £50,000 deposit. So now I have 4 £200,000 properties. And I know there's going to be one or two, yeah, but you forgot about stamp duty. I get it. This is just as an example. So now I've got 4 properties that are each getting £1,000 a month. But Jamie, the mortgage, yes, let's make this easy and say 75% of them is I'm paying off debt. So I'm only making £250 a month from each one. Well, Jamie, what's the point then? Because now you're only making £1,000 still, but from 4 properties, 4 times the problems, 4 times the tenants. Well, remember, you're investors, not landlords. There's going to be a management agent taking care of this. But you're absolutely right. Is it really any better having £1,000 from 4 rather than £1,000 from 1? The answer is yes, because I like to diversify and de-risk myself. So if one tenant isn't paying, I'm not going from 1,000 income to 0. I've still got 3 renters there that can cover that payment. So if it is £750, well, guess what? These 3 people are making £250 each. 1, 2, 3, 750, so I can still pay my mortgage. But here's the kicker. If they're all great properties, all getting 5% capital growth, it's not on my capital anymore because I've not got 100% of my cash. It's on the value of the property. Now, it always is, by the way, but when you've got 100% of your cash in a property, it's 5% growth on the property and your cash because it's the same thing. But now, 75% of the value in this is in debt. But that 5% growth isn't split between me and the bank. It's 100% in my pocket. So what's 5% of 200,000? £10,000, but times that by 4 properties. So now, yes, I'm making my 12 grand a year from rent, but I'm also making £40,000. And in this example, 40k plus the 12, that's 52,000. 52,000 divided by 200, what is that? 26% return, I believe it is. 26% return on investment year on year. And by the way, that capital growth compounds, so it grows every single year. Now, that's the power of effective leverage when you do it correctly. The downside is people get a little bit too giddy and increase their loan to value too much. They go above 75% loan to value, which I do not advocate personally, but just my opinion. I'm not qualified to give financial advice. And I think you're pushing your risk too high, and then you might not be able to capture the increased value. So 75% loan to value, allow it to do its thing over a 5-year period and keep on growing out of the properties. Let your property buy your property. I completely realize that when you're watching a YouTube video, it's all simplified versions of the truth. And the reality of why I do that is that I want you to understand the key functions and the fundamentals of investing in property. The reality is there's a lot of complexities with investing. How do you get the right lending? How do you know it's in a strong capital growth area? How do you know what it's going to be worth in that 5 years? How do you know what finance you're going to get in place? There's 400 pieces of regulation on management. How am I going to know all of those? Well, this is where we actually come in. If you're watching this and you want to actually get the advantages, the benefits of what I'm talking about, you've got the funds to invest. Typically, we work with people with 100K or more to start building their portfolio. And at Aspire Portfolio, we help educate the investor to build their portfolio. We don't charge you for that strategy session, by the way. And we're going to put in place something that's going to help you scale. So if you've got the funds, but you don't have the time or inclination to do it yourself, I can help you grow that portfolio. Click on that link and you can go on there, and absolutely free, you can book in your one-to-one strategy session. But this is only for people that have got the funds to invest, and we want to invest our time into you. So it'll be in the link there. Click on it, fill in your details, and if you struggle with the link, put portfolio in the comments and we'll be in touch. Make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. And if you did get value from this video, take 2 seconds, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.